Hey everybody, I'm trying to go live on two things at the same time. Excuse my appearance. I'm about to go do, I call it groove theory, but it's orange theory. So that's why I'm gonna be a little bit short on time. And I have this incense going. So let's just pretend like it's not there. I'm gonna wait just a little bit since I'm short on time. Otherwise, I will get right into the message. I'll give it 1 minute. So we are talking about shame today. And it was because yesterday I was a little bit triggered about something. And so this is why I want to talk to you guys about it today. So, okay, let's just get started. Because you guys know I always have my notes here to talk to you guys about it. So first of all, if you don't know who I am, my name is Yashika. I'm the CEO and founder of Yashika's Intuition. My mission is to work with motivated, you don't have to be totally aware, but people that want to walk in their truth and live a better life for themselves and take responsibility for their life and level up. That is what I am passionate about doing. Those are the type of people that I serve. And where it truly aligns for me is when you can combine spirituality with intellect. So you are able to check things through not only your heart and your soul, but also your mind in order to be a more informed person and live a better life. So that is what I am passionate about. And that is why people choose to work with me. So the reason why I picked this topic is because I really feel strongly that we need to really pay attention to the labels that society are starting to put around words and the way in which we describe our experiences out in this world. For my trigger yesterday, it specifically evolved around the topic of guilt, or not guilt, let's just say shame. And I think that a lot of times we put these labels on ourselves without really thinking about what the true objective meaning of the word is. But the problem is, by objectively describing ourselves in a way, it cascades and creates experiences in our life that we may be aware or unaware of. And shame was one of those things that really got me down. So I want to just start off like I always do with, oh, hey, say hi guys, if you can hear me, and let me know. I forgot to ask that. I don't want to be talking to myself this whole time and nobody can hear me. Okay. So what I wanted to first start off with, like I always do, is let's take the emotional charge out of a word by just bringing some objectivity to the word. What does the definition of the word actually mean? And I want you to really pay attention to what the words mean, because they are not the same thing. However, they are being used interchangeably. And whether you think that is subtle or if you think it's semantics, you need to know that on a deeper psychological level, the words that you are using to describe maybe something that you experienced or went through do play a part in how you continue to experience life. So I hope that makes sense. So if we start off with the word shame, the objective meaning of shame: humiliation or distress caused by a conscious wrong doing or a foolish behavior. And it's a noun. So think about what a noun is. And, you know, we can go into some literary debate about that. But at the end of the day, let's just go back to elementary school. A noun is a person, place, or thing. So that means that to have shame, that is a person, a place, or in this case, a thing, right? And then if you are ashamed, because these are two words I want you to really pay attention to. If you are ashamed, you are embarrassed or guilty because of some conscious actions that you may have made, or some characteristics that you may have or observe, or some associations with that you may have, like your associations with other people. So ashamed is an adjective. Now let's think about that for a minute. Shame, which is what I hear a lot and what triggered me a lot yesterday, labeling something as something that is shameful versus being ashamed of something that happened. two different experiences. I want to let you sit on that. What I want you to particularly pay attention to is, let's bring it into an example, right? Let's say that you were in a shitty relationship, and within that shitty relationship, you allow yourself to consciously do things or allow things that you did not agree with, and it turned out to be really bad for you and the way you came out of that relationship, and really bad for the both of you together. Okay, so you were you're probably ashamed of who you were in that relationship, of what you allowed in that relationship, of the way that you compromised your values and your integrity, and maybe that you knew what you were doing was wrong, but you chose to do it anyway. That is a descriptive word. Hey, Malia, this is a descriptive word for what you actually experienced in that relationship. You were ashamed. You are ashamed of the person that you were in that relationship. You are ashamed of the person that you allowed yourself to be. You are ashamed that you ever let yourself associate with somebody that had the ability and the power and the control to bring you out of your space of alignment and integrity. That is you being ashamed of a relationship, okay? Shame is different, and this is what I really want you to pay attention to. Shame means that it's a noun. It now becomes a thing that you hold on to, a thing that labels you, a thing that defines you. So instead of saying that you were ashamed by something that you did in the moment and making steps to get past that, you have now labeled yourself as somebody that has shame, a thing that you now carry as a part of you because of something that you have went through that consciously may have affected you the same way. But do you see the difference? We all have experienced things. If we have lived life, even a little bit, we've all experienced things and instances where we may have been ashamed of the things that we have done or allowed or associated with. But that does not mean that you have to label yourself as somebody that needs to carry around shame. Those are two different things. And you hear a lot of people, like me, for instance, say that they have no regrets about the life that they lived or the decisions that they've made. It doesn't mean that we've all made perfect decisions. It doesn't mean that we have it all on lock and we never make mistakes or we never feel ashamed of some of the things that we've did. But we know how to distinguish between the two. An adjective, we were ashamed by something or something that we did experience or associated with, but we don't feel shame for it because we have allowed ourselves to move on and not let that one thing define who we are. And you need to think about that too, because if you are using the label that you have shame, that is one of the number one things that could be holding you back from starting to forgive yourself and starting to move forward and live a better life. So I want you to let that sink in, because like I said, I don't have much time to talk here because I have to go live in my Facebook group and see if they have any questions about what we're talking about. Number 2 point about this. So the difference between shamed and being ashamed of something. Different. Noun, adjective, person, place, thing that is real, or an adjective that describes something that you didn't like. Okay, number 2. You are what you consciously or unconsciously believe that you are. So, hey, I was thinking about you too. I gotta tell you that I miss you. I love clients like you. Hey, Bree and Rebecca. All right, so you are what you consciously or unconsciously believe that you are. So remember, it's the difference between shame versus feeling ashamed. But then there's also this thing that happens when you label yourself a certain way, whether you consciously know it's happening or unconsciously know it's happening. And when you start to label yourself as somebody that has shame, consciously and unconsciously, you start to perpetuate a person that should be shameful, that should be full of shame, that should be guilty, that should be down on themselves, that should lack self-confidence. All those different things manifest themselves depending on who you are and how you consciously or unconsciously choose to believe that you are. That's the number 2 thing that I want you to think about. Choose your words carefully. You guys, I care deeply about you, and I want you to know that you have more power in this world than you think that you do. And it all starts with the way that you choose to define yourself and the words that you choose to define yourself. And you need to choose those words carefully, because what you do, whether you know it or not, is undermine your life, your current life. You undermine the experiences that you've had in the past, and you also start to undermine who you will be in the future, depending on the words that you choose. Because if we go back to the second point, what you choose to label yourself with, how you choose to label yourself, is the way that you're going to experience life, consciously or unconsciously. So you don't even know that you have control over this process. So this is why I want you to define yourself carefully. Do not undermine yourself. Are you truly in a state of shame, or are you just ashamed about something that didn't go the way that you wanted it to do and you knew better, but you still did it anyway, or you still associated with it anyway? All right. And then the next thing I want you to, again, hone in on between shame and ashamed is labels versus descriptors. Remember, shame is a noun. Ashamed is an adjective. I've already beat a dead horse there. We're going to move on to the next point. I talk to you guys about this a lot as well. So not only do you need to pick your words carefully, because the words that you choose can undermine your experiences in the present and in the future, etc. And you may not even know that you're doing this because it can be a subconscious process. What you also need to know is that by continuing to do this over and over, what you are doing is biochemically wiring your brain. You are focusing on the past. You are decreasing your level of self-confidence, and you are also decreasing your level of personal development and growth, because you are knowingly or unknowingly self-sabotaging yourself by the words that you use to describe the experiences that you have been through. Anybody have any questions about that? It's deep, so I want you to watch the replay on this. This is something that you may understand what I'm saying now, but I really want you to get it, because it's not just how you label yourself as shame versus ashamed. It could be I'm fat versus skinny, I'm healthy, I'm not, I'm a procrastinator, or I'm a loser, or I'm a perfectionist. All these labels that you are putting upon yourself are what will define you consciously or subconsciously. So you need to be really clear that what you are saying to yourself out loud or in your head is something that is not going to undermine your present or your future state. You also need to recognize, now I'm not saying that there aren't things in life that people should be ashamed of, right? So I'm not saying that in that moment there may not be a state of shame, but I want you to learn how to be a little bit compassionate with yourself. That was my stomach growling. A little bit compassionate with yourself, because like I said previously, you may be doing something that you know is wrong, but a lot of times we do things the best that we can in the state that we are. That's not excusing poor, terrible behavior, but what that's saying is that if you're coming from a place of low vibration, then you're going to tend to attract low vibrations. You're going to tend to act in a way that's not vibrationally aligned with your best self. So I do want you to have compassion for yourself, because we've all been through situations where we felt ashamed. And just because you did something in the past that made you feel ashamed doesn't mean that that has to define who you are in this moment and who you are in the future. And so you need to be able to be graceful with yourself and compassionate with yourself and be able to release yourself from some of the things that have happened to you in the past. So I do have an exercise that I'm going to give you, but just know that you're doing the best that you could, or you did the best that you could in that moment. And again, it doesn't mean that it excuses bad behavior. What that statement means is that if you are a broken person, or you are not living your best self, or not being your best self, or choosing to associate with people that are low vibration, it probably says something about the state of where you were at the time in which you experienced your shamed or felt ashamed. And so you were doing the best that you can in that moment. But guess what? That's an easy space to stay in going forward, right? So I'm going to take it a step further. So now you know the difference. And now you know that you were probably doing the best that you could in that moment. But what I want to challenge you with is that, again, by you choosing to define yourself in that state, saying that you feel shame, and it impacting the way that you move in life in the present and in the future, to me, that's taking the easy way out, because then you can put a label on it, slap a label on it, and you don't have to do the work to come out of being of shame, or come out of a feeling of ashamedness, which is a more temporary state. What it does is allow you to continue to label yourself, be that person, and not have to do the work to forgive yourself or to release what has happened. And again, that's very detrimental to your future state. So I want you to think about that. Forgiving yourself is hard. Changing is hard. Being somebody that you want to be and doing the things that that person would do to break the habits, the patterns, the labels, and all those other things in your life from the past is hard. To continue to label yourself as lazy, or a perfectionist, or a bitch, or somebody that lives in shame, or somebody that's antisocial, to continue to label yourself in those things means that you're taking the easy way out and not doing the work to detach and to be compassionate for yourself. So the last thing that I want to do is leave you with something that's going to help you to step out of that state. And what that is a journal exercise. Some of you have already told me that you don't journal, but I encourage you to do this exercise. It's not a traditional journal exercise. You're actually going to be writing a letter about something. So you need to figure out if you have been holding on to a label of shame about something that you were temporarily ashamed of, or something you were ashamed of. Remember, there's a difference. Go back and listen again if you don't understand that. So if you need forgiveness and compassion, I want you to think about what situation, what instance, what person you may need forgiveness and compassion from, or for, and it could even be yourself. But I want you to write a letter asking for that forgiveness and that compassion. You can write it in your journal. You can write it as a real letter. But I want the power behind that exercise is that it gives you, it almost helps you release the shame that you're carrying on about something. And it can help you to feel a little bit less ashamed when you are asking for forgiveness or compassion. You may not feel brave enough, if this is with another person, to ask them directly, but to indirectly write a letter about it is a very powerful tool. And the second letter, if you don't have to ask for forgiveness or compassion, you could talk about if there is something that you need to forgive. I hope I'm saying that right. What would the letter say? Or if you know somebody that did something bad to you and let's say that they were asking you for forgiveness or asking you for advice on forgiveness and compassion, what would that look like? That's the second one. Because again, a lot of times we have these labels and these things that are going on in our head, and we tend to be really bad and negative and down on ourselves. And like I said, carry around these labels that don't even apply to us. If we were to just objectively look at the truth, we carry this stuff around. And at the end of the day, if we were to talk to somebody else that was going through what we're going through, we tend to find more kind, nice, and compassionate words that help people in other situations. So I hope that this made sense. I hope that you understand why I felt compelled to talk to you about the shame versus ashamed topic. I strongly believe that you need to really pay attention to how you choose to label yourself. And if you have doubt and you think that that doesn't have power, I really want you to rewind this, watch it again, sit with it. The replay will be up on my Facebook, my business Facebook, because again, I just think that you need to know that words have more power than you think, and that a lot of times we label our experiences based on something that is not even true. If something has happened in the past, you really, at the end of the day, have no reason to continue to say that you have shame about something. Maybe unless it's like you kill somebody. But to have shame about something, rather than labeling it as what it really is, stop being over dramatic, stop using hyperboles. You are just ashamed about something that you consciously knew shouldn't have happened or you shouldn't have been associated with, etc., etc., etc. All right, so I got to get ready to go to, I call it Groove Theory, but Orange Theory. But I am going to pop into my private Facebook group to see if anybody has any questions or concerns before I go. Thank you guys for joining me, and I will see you around. Okay, bye. Oh yeah, guys, don't forget, if you want to join my private Facebook group, the link is in the bio if you're on Instagram. If you are on Facebook, it's there, so you can join right away. Next week, we're going to be talking about personal boundaries in the group. Every week we do a master class, and so that's what we'll be talking about next week. Last week, I think I went in on people and empathy versus post-traumatic stress. So if that's something that you want to learn more about, you can go ahead over to the group there as well. So private Facebook group, go join it. I'll see you guys later. Bye.